Welcome everyone to Autogefühl, your #1 resource for in-depth car reviews and your #1 community to discuss cars. And exactly this we are doing today with another best-of comparison test video. Today it's about premium compact SUVs here with Thomas. And we also see our other Thomas in the Porsche Macan video, because what cars do we have today? Actually, so the premium compact SUV segment with the Porsche Macan, with the Audi SQ5, with the Land Rover Discovery Sport, with the Lexus NX, with the Volvo XC60 and the Mercedes GLC. You might say, okay, 6 cars already really a lot for one video, but it will be very exciting, so you get a lot of information there. The BMW X3 is missing in this case, and that is just the reason we have that one actually in a comparison test video already. It's also linked in the video description against the Mercedes GLK and the Nissan X-Trail. So also check out that comparison test video if you haven't seen it so far. And now let's go with the actual compact SUV test video with a premium compact SUV. And I also want to know your comments about which one would you actually go for after you have watched this video here, because well, everyone has kind of their own strength and maybe also the disadvantages. And later on we'll draw a conclusion about that together. So 4.63 meters in length, that is really long for a compact SUV. It's the same actually as the Volvo XC60, 4.64 meters. And these two then are kind of the biggest in the compact SUV size. The most ones are smaller, but also the new Mercedes GLC, they have made it longer than the GLK. So the manufacturers are moving up their compact SUVs, making them longer, making them bigger, because small SUVs are growing up from below. That's kind of the reason for it. In this case, I've already told you, it's just a little bit shorter than the Lexus RX, but it's way cheaper, about 15K cheaper than the bigger brother here from Lexus. Therefore, this one will also be a major success. How can they actually make it relatively cheap? Because also if you compare it to Volvo and Mercedes and put the same engines in there, also BMW and Audi, this is actually a quite good deal in the price-performance ratio. So they are mostly some €1,000, at least in Germany, below the other manufacturers. I think in the USA it's even bigger, the difference. Let's open the door and check out these handles. Very long, sharp here design, something very different, but they're quite solid. Feels like great quality. And then we see the inside. And what we can see are the executive line seats, real leather. You know, I would never recommend that. More details to that also later. You can see this is the structure of the seats here with this contrast stitches, but there are also Focus leather seats available and fabric. Then the steering wheel, first impression of that. In general, you see it's a very sporty interior just from the style, and already looks quite of high class, and a lot of side support here with the seats. They're perforated, but there's no vented seats here in this kind of version. Let's take a look at the cockpit. First of all, you see the design scheme from the outside, from the front grille, is carried over into the interior, and that's a very clever idea. You see the same frame that is around the front grille is here and in the same structure. Really great in design. We also have an analog clock here, which is kind of untypical for this segment here. However, on design side, very well done. But on the other hand, you don't have this classic SUV style that you have a lot of space here. The cockpit, the front dashboard, comes into the interior quite strong and doesn't leave you so much space. And I'm not quite sure what to think of that. I rather prefer the SUVs that have a lot of space, high window spaces, and also space around the dashboard here. You see, if you see the windows here behind me, they're also kind of a little bit slimmer. Also the front windscreen is not that kind of steep, it's rather flat. So it's more like a normal sports car raised above here as an SUV styling. So that's the new concept. Also same to the all-new Mercedes GLC, by the way. We've explained to it on the world premiere. That's different than the normal GLK so far, which was this classic SUV style. Well, obviously a lot of manufacturers think we do these more sporty SUVs, also from the interior and from the exterior then. But I'm looking forward to your opinion on this kind of issue then. Everything else on the interior, I think everything is really high class. So they've got a very high quality here. I guess this is Fox leather here on the dashboard. All the surfaces feeling very great, and also the knobs you turn here or just when you press them, really very good quality. So Lexus has found a very good way here, although the design is not, it's also kind of radical here also on the inside, because you get the line here, line there, then here something again is not that clean than the competitors actually. But just from the quality impression, it really evens the competitors, or maybe at some point is even on top of them. Not that great, I think, are the buttons on the steering wheel. However, the steering wheel itself has a good surface, also the right size in my opinion. And so I just feel very good when turning it. Then let's turn on the power button, just without pressing the brakes, that we have the instruments illuminated. Then we get inside to see how much space we actually got. I've told you 4.63 meters, quite a long SUV, and then we also have a lot of knee space here. Look at that. That's really an advantage of having quite a long compact SUV. There's no panoramic roof in here, so I still have this kind of headspace. I think that's really good. Actually, there are two kinds of panoramic roofs available. One which is really going through the glass roof, and another one which is not going through all the way, but then you can open it. I would always pick that one that you can actually open, and it's actually quite funny that both are available. Hardly any car ever seen that offers both of these possibilities. You see, as the rear seats are now, I'm falling back kinda. That it would be one solution if I maybe want to sleep. But then if I use the lever here to turn it completely, I can also adjust how the rear seats are actually just from the angle. I think that is a very good solution. You don't find it all the time. Because, for example, when I'm sitting here in the back, I also prefer to sit rather upright. And that is also good for a compact SUV here. You can really also have an upright seating position here in the back. However, also we've seen other cars which offer more space here, because also here this letter C pillar, it comes really close to my head. So it's not the most spacious feeling in here, but the legroom is really great. Let's check out the engine, how it actually looks like. You see, this is a 2.5 liter petrol engine, naturally aspirated. You know, I prefer the naturally aspirated one because they usually last longer, and still a classic kind of displacement. Only 155 horsepower from this petrol engine here, and that's not exaggerated. They like some of the small turbo engines. There's also the 2 liter turbo engine available. It is 2 seconds faster from 0 to 100 kilometers, so better performance, although we also have the electric drive. You see, this is here the area for the electric drive, one electric drive here, and there's also a second electric drive in the rear, not where the battery is, a little bit more in the front. You will see it also on the visualization on the interior here on the screen. This is very exciting as well. So let's drive around, and sometimes you don't know if the engine is actually turned on or turned off, because you usually start silently unless the engine is, the battery is totally empty. Now, for example, I start silently. Also says EV, green EV in the left part here. And then I really enjoyed it, just driving very silently. I love that. Therefore, I also love electric cars. Even, you know, there's an environmental discussion that they are not really as eco as they're supposed to be, because in the production process, it's also kind of, well, exempted from using the resources when having these electric engines then. However, Toyota, for example, with their hybrid drives, how can they actually offer this car cheaper than the version with the turbo engine? That's really crazy when they have sold 7.5 million cars with this kind of hybrid drive here so far, with a nickel metal hydride battery. This is different from the lithium-ion battery. And this one here is easier to produce, less expensive, but also doesn't have so much capacity. But it's long lasting and so also cheap in the long run. However, well, it does help me a little bit here also to get the consumption down. For example, when I'm going down, maybe let's say we're going down a hill, for example. Then it helps me to save fuel, because then I can reload the battery quite easily without using extra power. Let's start here with the exterior, because this has really dramatically changed in comparison to the Freelander. We now got a rather round design overall in the car. The Freelander was more kind of angular, and the front has the same style kinda as the Evoque. There are just slight differences now to the sister model. They are both on the same platform. It's this LRMS platform. The same platform that has also been used for the Freelander, so the basis kinda remained the same, and this is still a platform that is derived from the Ford Aegis. So this one platform also says that the first one is theoretically front driven, and then there's also, of course, the all-wheel drive versions. So in a small engine overview, you'll be surprised how the engine looks like, because we're here on the Land Rover Adventure tour in Greece, starting at the Diaskov Resort, and we could take roads that actually no one else were allowed to take, and this leads to that real dusty engine now. That's the real deal, guys. So, by the way, hydraulic dampers check from Autogefühl check here, and this one here is the 2.2 liter diesel. We already know that one from the Freelander and also from the Evoque. It's available in this one 190 horsepower style, and also available in the smaller one 150 horsepower. Combined with a 6-speed manual transmission or with the 8-speed automatic gearbox from ZF, which is, I think, one of the best there is right now on the market. Then there's also a petrol engine available with a 240 horsepower, recently also combined with a new 9-speed automatic gearbox from ZF. That could actually help, because this petrol engine before really had very high consumptions. Maybe it's better now with the new gearbox. And then it is all actually available right now, quite fresh on the market. There will be a new 2-liter diesel from the new Ingenium Jaguar Land Rover line. These ones are actually completely new engines. These ones here, the rather old world diesels and also petrol engines, are mostly derived still from the Ford area. Let's now take first a general overview of the new cockpit here in the Discovery Sport. First of all, you got a very soft steering wheel. You got this one actually with the higher trim levels. It reminds us also of the service we get in the F-Type, and also these instruments here on the steering wheel, well, I think they are not the best one, but they are similar to those also in the F-Type, and or you will also find similar ones in most of the other new Jaguar Land Rover cars, for example also in the XE. One very neat feature is here that we got a heated steering wheel. It's very good that it's available here, but it's of course optional. Basically there are the trim levels in like going from up till down. Top one is HSE Luxury, then it's HSE, then SE, and then there's also a basic trim level with S. Well, what can I say? Actually, I would go for a rather low trim level to keep the price low with the car, because if you pick the HSE Luxury level and maybe with a strong diesel, you get to price regions where you can maybe even move up class, so you have to watch out for that. And I got really a lot of space here in front of my legs, and also above my head. We still got the panoramic roof here. That's optional for 1,500 euros, for example, this price in Germany. Of course, that reduces the headroom, yes, but you see, even with the panoramic roof, I still got a lot of headroom. So really a lot of space here, and that is also the main advantage also in comparison to the Range Rover Evoque, because there you can kind of forget sitting in the back as an adult. I can also adjust the head sorry, not the headrest, the backrest here of the. I can move it more to the back. Actually, I have even more space then, but that would more be a sleeping position then. So I prefer it when it's a little bit steeper, but it's good that it's actually possible. And then another thing that is also very practical, I can move the front bench. Of course, that wouldn't be suitable for me now, but for example, now the trunk is even larger. And so I can really decide, what do I need for this special ride? Do I have kids in the back and need more trunk, or do I have adults sitting here in the rear compartment and I need more knee space? That's a really good thing here, actually. It makes the car even more versatile. So I think one of the main features of this car is really this versatility here in the rear compartment, also in comparison to the other compact SUVs in this class. This one really rates very good in this respect. And finally, let's take a look at the trunk. By the way, this is the key. It's a standard Land Rover key now. This is the optional standalone heating, but you know, it's of course just optional. You can also press the button here to open the trunk. You see it's very well, nice, dirty from all the off-road riding. This is an experience car here now, so it's not standard equipment, so you wouldn't just put the tire actually here in the back. But there you see also how these experience vehicles are used. And well, you see, that's also not that most practical solution here, because the belts here for the 6 and 7 seats have to be removed, that you can actually put this one down. You can see you can really fit a lot of in here, and if you even move the bench forward as I showed you, or just flip the bench totally, then you have even more space. So also very versatile. It goes down even further, of course. So just imagine this wheel wouldn't be here, but that's also a good example of how good you can really use this car for different purposes. You see the space is really used very well, and that's, I think, another advantage. By the way, we also got some electric supplies here in the rear, and also there are controls for the vents. And as I already told you now, it's a special feature also with this car. Well, which other car does it offer? The Nissan X-Trail, for example, that you can put emergency seats up in here, 6 and 7 seats. Cannot show you today because the wheel is fixed here at the moment, but that's also another good feature this car offers, which is almost standalone in this car. So well, at least for the premium class, it is really standalone then. So, and then I can also close the car, the hatch here electronically again with the key. It's also not always possible. Some say we do not close that one with the key for safety reasons, but here it's also possible. So let's talk about riding off-road in the new Land Rover Discovery Sport. That's why we're here actually. So this is the most exciting part in my opinion. Well, you know that basically Land Rover kind of has like stepping up a level car by car in off-road performance, starting with the Range Rover Evoque and the old Freelander, now the Land Rover Discovery Sport. And then above these SUVs you got the full-size off-roaders with the air suspension, and they also got more ground clearance and so on. But here kind of with a basis model and now also the new cheapest Land Rover besides the Defender, the Icon, so the cheapest SUV version, it is already fully off-road capable, and they really paid attention to that. So also from the chassis, you know, it's quite heavy generally, the chassis, so for road riding it's actually not that good, and the car consumes more fuel due to that. But keeping that weight and that stability in the chassis is good here for off-road. For example, if you lift maybe one wheel off the ground, and then you still can open the door without being afraid that the chassis is kind of squished around. And we are right now here on kind of rocky surfaces here on Crete. Very beautiful landscape, but very bad roads. You cannot really talk of roads here. So really huge rocks and marbles here on the ground, and you have to watch out that you don't hit a rock that is actually too big. Of course, we do not have the air suspension here, as I said, so the off-road riding comfort is not that comfortable than in a huge off-roader where you kind of roll around a little bit more softly, so you get more feedback actually from the ground. But still, actually every obstacle is managed, and you can't moan about that. So they really built a car that is fully off-road capable and can also go on the road. So it's not this SUV concept that you say, okay, we want to build a street SUV, maybe with some off-road features. Here it's really the other way around. Well, I mean, most people won't use this car probably off-road, but it's of course always a nice feeling and also an image factor when buying this car if you know you can actually do it and will have no problems at all. You see, it's also a little bit shaky here. That's again due to the lacking air suspension, but you have to think about the base price here in Germany, for example, is 32,000 euros for this car, and there you can't, of course, expect an air suspension. That would be actually too expensive. The only manufacturer offering an air suspension in the compact SUV segment is Porsche with the new Macan. Actually, we got a full review of that one as well. I'll also link that one in the video description. And if you also want to compare other cars, also as for driving in the compact SUV segment, we got a BMW X3, Mercedes GLK, and also some other, all linked in the video description here. So I'm keeping my hands as usual for off-road driving, not putting my thumbs in the steering wheel, because if the steering wheel would move around quite fastly, then my thumbs don't get dislocated. That's always very important when riding off-road. And the steering, well, actually when road driving, it feels a little bit too soft and somehow a little bit dead. But here when off-road riding, it's actually quite good, because you don't have a hard time steering. Also when we go in very sharp corners, we don't have to steer the steering wheel too hard. So the steering ways are actually quite okay, I must say. Not too long, and when you have the soft steering here, it helps you really when driving off-road, because it's kind of relaxing. So let's now go a little bit faster. We feel the car is really rather set on a comfortable experience. See it going right and left also again. So it's not that kind of sporty experience. If you rather want to have sporty, then maybe go for the Evoque. Or there's also a new possibility here. We do not have this in this vehicle here right now, but there's also an adaptive suspension available now for the Discovery Sport, and there you can put the suspension stiffer if you want to go more sporty. So that is also a good option that is being offered now. But in general, they've worked on the suspension. It's also a little bit better than with the Freelander, so you feel a kind of evolution there as well. About the engines, talked about it initially as well. Here we still got the old 2.2 liter diesel with 190 horsepower. It's quite powerful. Yes, you won't lack power at any time, but of course, just from the sound it makes, it's rather like the old diesel, still from this derived from Ford. I'm also looking forward to the new diesel, the Ingenium diesel. I think it will consume less and also will be more silent. If you go for the petrol engine, or the 240 horsepower petrol engine, this one might be consuming a little bit less now than in the past times, because it's now connected with the new ZF 9-speed automatic gearbox. And that will also be available for the new Ingenium diesel. So I would rather pick the new diesel engine, because these ones here we got here right now, they are powerful, yes, but they are meanwhile quite old. So I think it's their time for a change. What else can we say about, for example, the sound isolation? I think it's quite good. Actually, we didn't drive too fast here now, I must say. But in general, you got this comfy, high seating position here in the SUV. You got a quite comfortable ride on the street. So I think you can't moan about that. In general, just from the quality feeling when driving, you cannot really compare it to the more expensive competitors. I think they are lacking a little bit there. For example, the GLK, the X3, the Q5, also the Volvo XC60, they feel a little bit more premium when driving. But I think it's maybe a good positioning here from Land Rover that they make it a little bit cheaper, as long as you don't put too much extra equipment in it. Because you get a quite exclusive car, you don't see too much on the road with an attractive exterior, and also driving feeling is generally good, I must say. And I must say I also feel more comfortable than in the Evoque. Not that exclusive, because the Evoque has more styling also in the interior, but it feels better when driving, feels like a more evolved car. Some people say that the Porsche Macan is the first sports compact SUV, but I think that's not actually true, because there's already the Audi SQ5, which we are driving now today. And this is really a sports SUV. It doesn't have the focus on the comfy ride, but really on the sports ride, but being an SUV at the same time. We're going to find out about it right now. What we're driving here is a 3-liter V6 diesel delivering 313 horsepower. That's enormous, and actually you don't really feel it's a diesel. It's a bit like in the Porsche Cayenne. It's more like a sports, an emotional diesel as well, from the sound and also from the torque. We got a massive torque of 650 Newton meter here, and it really gives you the acceleration in any moment. What I really love is the steering wheel. The leather is incredibly soft, and also we got the white contact switches, especially for me, of course, again. And well, there could be a flattened end here because it's a top sport version, but still, this steering wheel really is feeling so soft and so good. It's really so sporty, one of my favorites. About the rest of the interior here, well, it is classic for Audi that is very cool and rather conservative. I like the shiny elements here in the buttons, but still, well, it could be more emotion, especially for the sports version. And what we see here, this is a top sports version, and we still got so much black plastic. I wouldn't do that. Rather more of that stuff, you know? Carbon fiber look. Maybe we could put a fan leather on here, or maybe some textile, something like that, because you see it here, they can do it. The side of the doors, we also got the like leather with the white contrast digits. I would have more of that here on the dashboard as well. I'm in neutral right now, but listen to the sound. It really makes you forget driving a diesel here and being in the Audi SQ5. Such a great sound being inside, and also you don't have this classic diesel style where you have to wait a second until the torque really sets in. It's there instantaneously. And we also got that here in the acceleration test, which is about 5 seconds for a car that weighs 2 tons. That's quite impressive. The GPS handles very fast, and you control it here over the center MMI. And what is especially like a sign for quality, just listen to the sound here. There's special sound designers doing this, and this is just a sound, well, it's pretty easy sound on the one hand, but it just feels like good quality. That's very interesting detail. We can switch between different drive modes in the Audi Drive Select. For example, when just being on a normal motorway, you rather pick comfort. So you got a very easy to handle steering wheel, for example, and also the throttle doesn't react that fast. When you put it to dynamic, it's stiffer, the steering wheel is also stiffer, and you got an instantaneously throttle reacting, and also you hear the engine is kind of a bit preloading. You got more torque instantaneously. Well, but I must say, between dynamic and comfort. As for suspension, you hardly don't feel anything. So for an SUV, it is not comfortable, this car really. So you shouldn't buy it if you want to have this very controlled luxury SUV feeling, being in a flow on the street. But you should get it if you want a sporty SUV. If you want very good sports car, which is also versatile, and you can also have it with a lot of space in the trunk and also for the rear passengers.
As you might know, this is the 5th line in the Porsche lineup. I mean, there are 3 sports cars, the Cayman, the Boxster and the 911, and we have also the large SUV, the Cayenne, and this is the mid-size SUV. It's loosely based on the Audi Q5. They share a common platform, they have around 1/3 of common parts. But as I will tell you later on, the Porsche has many specific components. For instance, the all-wheel drive is totally Porsche developed. It's no quattro drive anymore. Let's talk a little bit about the exterior design. This was done under the leadership of Michael Mauer, the chief designer of Porsche for many years. And I think at first glance it's very much soft forms and not very many hard edges at this car. Very nice for Porsche. I mean, typically Porsche, and they have tried to give the car a lot of 911 and also some kind of Cayenne. Spectacular look into the engine compartment of the Porsche Macan S diesel. Quite a few surprises here. As you can see, the headlights, by the way, another reference to the 918 Spider, they stay in place when the hood goes up. Here, this is the opening for the headlights. So it's a clamshell hood that goes above the fenders, very classical way. And these stay firmly in place. By the way, underneath here we have the fog lights and then these two fins here. So welcome in the cockpit of the Macan S diesel. As you can see, it's very much a Porsche cockpit. You can identify that by various details. Most of all, the three instruments here, the central gauges, and as in every Porsche, the rev counter or tachometer is in the center of these three instruments. So it's much larger than the speedometer, which is on the left side. And on the right side is a very nice feature, the map of the navigation system, which you normally expect here. You can also have it here if you like, but also it's possible to have this little map in this right gauge here, which we have at the moment. The steering wheel is directly derived from the 918 Spider, with all the buttons here, multifunctional buttons, and these very beautifully executed pedal shifts here, by which you can change the 7 speeds of the Porsche double clutch automatic. We have here the gear shifter in a very good position, and then this is typically of the contemporary Porsche interior design, this center console, which is gently rising here up to this area with many buttons. Some people think it's a bit too many buttons. I would also say maybe 50% less would do as well, but it's Porsche at the moment. Here I find is a very nice way to regulate the temperature of the left and right side here by this kind of toggle switch. You have this digital indicator here saying 18.5 degrees or 19 at the moment. And you can also vary here the ventilation by another toggle switch. This is quite nice. So normally you would expect some rotary switches here, but instead we have this toggle switch. It's also a very nice overhead console, a little bit like in an aircraft with all these buttons here, and the same styling than the center stack here in the middle. You find again up here. Very nice light here if you open the door. So this stopwatch here that we know from other Porsches like 911, Carrera, GT, Cayenne, and also Boxster, I think, is optional. It costs around 1,000 euros, and it's part of the so-called Sport Chrono Pack. And another feature of the Sport Chrono Pack, in addition to this watch, is, if you watch here on the center stack, this Sport Plus system. And this is a system which enables you to enter a very sportive driving modus in terms of gear shift points, in terms of suspension settings and other stuff. So this is for a sporty driver. If you go with the car to the Nürburgring or to another circuit, just press the button and you can measure your lap time, for instance. So we were talking about typical Porsche idiosyncrasies and peculiarities, and one of these are the keys, the fob key of all the Porsches, and it's very nicely shaped. As you can see, it resembles the shape of the car. And then typically for Porsche, and this is a big difference to the Audi Q5, which is partly based on that car, or otherwise the Porsche is based on the Audi. They share around 30% of common parts, but only 30%, is that on the Porsche, like in every other Porsche, the ignition switch is on the left side of the steering wheel, so you have to put that here into that slot and then turn it to the right, and then the engine comes alive. So as I told you earlier, Porsche people in Majchrzak at their R&D center have done a lot of tuning to the chassis of that car. They rejected the Audi Quattro four-wheel drive because the main reason is that it's not possible with the Audi system to put 100% of power to the rear axle. So in the Audi Q5, for instance, there's only 60% of the torque going to the rear wheels, not more, whereas in the Macan it's it's 80%. So the normal driving characteristic is very much resembles a rear-wheel driven car. On the other hand, thanks to the multi-plate disc, it's possible to shift the power when necessary to the front, more to the front. So if the system detects slip in slippery conditions, it instantly shifts more power also to the front wheels. So as I briefly remarked already, the Porsche designers at their R&D center in Weissach near Stuttgart have done a lot of chassis tuning to that platform here. In fact, they have rejected the Audi Quattro drive, the famous Audi Quattro drive, which is in the Audi Q5, of course. The main reason is that they wanted a car very similar to a rear-wheel driven vehicle. And this is not possible with the Quattro drive. In the Audi Q5 only 60% goes to the rear axle of the torque, and this was not enough for Porsche. So they went their own way, developed their own four-wheel drive system, and the result is that in the Macan 80% of the torque always go, under normal circumstances like now on the dry road, go to the rear axle. Macan is the Indonesian word for tiger, and I think that's very fits the car very well because it has performance of a tiger. It sits on the 20-inch wheels like a tiger, ready to jump forward and to show its performance.
A few weeks ago, the car was presented by Mercedes to the world, and Thomas explained it to you in detail, but he couldn't drive the car. And this is what we do today. But first we take a look at the new Mercedes GLC. This car succeeds the older SUV, the older compact SUV from Mercedes GLK. As one can see, the GLC has become visually significantly slimmer in the front. The GLK looked rather angular. We like the new face because it's more dynamic and elegant. Overall, the GLC has become slightly larger than the GLK. The car has grown by 12 centimeters in length. More space and more convenience is the result. But now let's drive. I think that's very comfortable here and clearly. However, the new roundly shaped layout doesn't offer the good overview the GLK had. We can drive today the car in the border triangle, France, Switzerland, Germany, in the idyllic valley of the Rhine. We shall see vineyard and also an off-road course. A German newspaper wrote, "It feels a little like to be in a tank," especially from the driver's place. Do you agree with this? I don't. The GLC is currently available with 4 engines. A diesel with 170 horsepower, another diesel with 204 horsepower, and the petrol with 211 horsepower. And the fourth is a gasoline plug-in hybrid with 211 horsepower and additionally 116 horsepower from the electric drive. Today we drive the petrol engine with 4-wheel drive and a maximum speed of 222 kilometers per hour with 1.9 tons of weight. That's obviously not a car for fast cornering, but we did it. In general, it seems to used to be more the car for cruising, but you can have a lot of fun driving, especially with this engine. It's a 211 horsepower engine. You see, there's enough acceleration for the motorway. Our test car has a new optional air suspension of Mercedes, and we really recommend that. This new optional air suspension with 3 chambers is a technological highlight because so far only offers the Porsche Macan air suspension in the compact SUV segment. You can use the air suspension during loading, in which it lowers the vehicle for packing. Otherwise, a reduction of 2 centimeters is active when the sport mode is selected. In comfort mode, the air suspension on the other hand remains at the normal level and ensures a very soft ride. Standard equipment includes collision prevent assist, automatic emergency braking, crosswind assist, headlamp assist, and a driver alert on board. Optionally, the adaptive cruise control Distronic Plus with steering assist, emergency brake assist with pedestrian recognition, intersection assistant, blind spot warning, and lane keeping assist is available. And now it comes down from the street to dirty roads, in the meadows, in the fields, in the vineyards. Let's go off-road with the Mercedes GLC. But let's face it, when do you see a SUV off-road really? Many SUVs therefore have limited capabilities. GLC but makes it quite well, very well. See these pictures. This comes with an added off-road engineering package and the air suspension, in which the ride height can be increased by 5 centimeters. So, off-road GLC, it was really a thrill I never expected. You've seen it, we have changed the car to a car with an off-road engineering package. After another 3 hours of test driving, we feel still fresh and rested. Mercedes has the GLC donated with really very good seats. We did not expect anything else in this price range. The basic model will cost about 45,000 euros. With a few extras, we are rapidly much higher. The GLC is the second most expensive car in its segment, the compact SUV, behind the Porsche Macan. This was the Autogefühl test drive of the Mercedes GLC. You can order the new car from now. The first deliveries are planned for September 2015. The new Mercedes GLC offers all features of the full-size SUV category in the compact SUV class. Technically, you can miss anything with air suspension and 9-speed automatic transmission. One can already say that the new GLC creates the perfect conditions, not having to rely on an even larger SUV.
Starting with the front and the headlights, well, they are kind of shaped dynamically, but not too much. So I think this car is now very modern right now, and still in 10 years it will still be modern. This is kind of a timeless design in my opinion, which makes it very attractive. So you can also buy non-facelift XC60s, no problem, they still look good. And now even a little bit better since the facelift has been out a couple of years ago. So I think this color, well, brown is not my favorite. It would be rather blue or maybe white. But I think the combination to the seats inside, we'll soon see them, is very nice. The side profile is dominated by the rear ending, which kind of has a round form here. It's very beautiful. There's also a version, especially when you take some special editions, where the chrome is up here. That's even more beautiful. And then the rear is the most special part of the car. We see it here from the side because this is very unique and also defines the Volvo SUV language. You see it here, a lot of space. Even if you're traveling with like 4 adults, it will be no problem for your holiday. And that's one big advantage of this very long SUV. You got just more trunk. So if you got a lot of luggage, that will be the right pick for you. And then we can close it again electrically. Welcome to our short interior check. I really love the Volvo seats. I think they are the most comfortable on the market right now because they have this special shape. They look like a human is supposed to fit in there. So I would describe it, especially also with the headrests. They are quite unique. I think they're the only headrests on the market that can actually really support your head. I mean, that would be a normal driving position here now. And if I just lean back a little bit, my head is supported here. And most of the usual headrests, they do not offer that. They are like pretty far away, and that's also relevant in a crash situation, for example. If the headrest is rather here in the front, it's also better when you go in the front and then are pushed back. It's also safer with that one. And safety has always been a major subject with Volvo. And it's also the case here because we got very good assistance systems that are working pretty well. We got also a front collision assist, for example. We got some red lights flashing up, almost like a head-up display as a warning. And we also got this, that's serial in all Volvo, this city emergency braking. So if someone just brakes in front of you and you're not paying so much attention, there's always this safety mechanism, because maybe you take a bottle here from the holders, very practical by the way, and then do not pay too much attention, then you got this safety mechanism. Yeah, about the holders here, they are very practically because they got some rubber here inside, so smaller and also bigger bottles fit in here. And at both door sides we can stuff something in, and here also in the middle part, it's also possible. You can also put a very large bottle in here, for example, and it also doesn't disturb your arm even if you leave this one open while driving. Everything is very well attached. That's just premium, I must say. And well, it doesn't always have to be leather, even in the premium segment. For example, look here, that's plastic. It's a little bit soft, not too hard plastic, but it's just a very great surface. It's kind of like a chaos surface, but it looks very good. It's nice structure. I really love this bright interior here, ceiling as well as the seats. You have to watch out when these leather seats get a little bit older. They might gather some black color, but still, I think it's worth it. Everyone knows the black leather seats are usually more durable, but these ones are just so bright, so shiny, and makes also like a very spacious feeling here, sitting in the back. We got the nice and large panoramic roof here, and still, you always know, if a panoramic roof is included, you lose headroom. But still, it's way enough here for me, and I'm quite tall, you know, so that's very good. Also enough leg room, and I think just the back seating position is very relaxing. So this, for example, here I can show you as well. Also for cup holders here in the back, and you can put your stuff here. Maybe if your children in the back want to draw something while driving, you could put stuff in here, for example. But even two grown adults have no problem here sitting in the back, and that's also one of the advantages, that this one is kind of the largest of the compact SUVs. Being in a city or on some narrow country roads, the engine is very promising because it gives you a certain feeling of dynamic riding. That's always the case for the most petrol engines, because you got the instant torque. You don't have to wait like with the turbo deals. You often have to wait like just a small second that the turbo sets in, but here it works pretty well just from the beginning on. And I've already told you, when you're pushing the throttle and turning the steering wheel at the same time, you might always feel that the front wheels get a little bit spin, because there's so much power already, so much torque on the front wheels. So that's way enough. And one problem of this bigger petrol engine, even though it's a 4-cylinder now, is of course the consumption. It says 12 now. I think that's a little bit too much. I'm not sure how that comes, because I've tested this engine also a little bit longer, like some time ago, and I was like 10 liters. Maybe if you really want to have fun, goes a little bit more up. Well, if you consider that some old V8 natural aspirated petrol engines also use sometimes 10 or 11 liters. Well, what can you say about it? I'm not the biggest fan of the new small petrol engines, because there's not so much difference. But still, if you want to have low consumption, it is possible with that engine. It really matters how you push the throttle, and if you don't drive too much kilometers per year, maybe if you ride like 10,000 kilometers a year, it will make no difference using the petrol or the diesel engine. Maybe even the petrol engine is still cheaper then, because for example here in Germany you got higher taxes, higher insurance for the diesel, and also the price difference between petrol and diesel diminished over the last couple of years. Wow, these were really a lot of cars and also very exciting cars. In general, the premium compact SUV segment, I really love this segment because they are not that huge that you maybe get annoyed by being too huge and maybe can't find any parking space or something like that. But still, they already offer a lot of luxury and meanwhile also so much luxury as you usually just had in the full-size SUV in the past. So it's really hard to decide then which car you would actually go for. Maybe you have already made up your mind. And well, I can tell you my thoughts. I was a little bit disappointed of the Land Rover Discovery Sport. I think it wasn't too worthy from the inside, rather a Freelander update. So I wasn't too keen on that one. However, the biggest surprise was the Lexus NX, the all-new model, and I think it will be the most selling Lexus in the future. And so I was actually really keen on that model. It was very well to drive. However, as for an SUV, I rather prefer that when you sit inside and have a very good overview, not this kind of sporty cage inside, because then I would go for a sports car. And the same was with the Mercedes GLC, as Holger showed us. It's also more the new, modern, sporty SUV style. So I would rather go for something with a rather classical layout, like the Volvo XC60, for example. So I think this is also offering a very good mix then. It's a classic SUV layout, also offering a lot of space, but also very elegant from the inside. And so I would, just for my feeling at the moment, go for the Volvo. The Porsche Macan, however, it's also a very impressive car, the most sporty one of this, of course. But then really, it's the most expensive car of that one. I think it's not really worth the money if you compare it to the performance, the overall performance to the other cars. I also like very much the Audi SQ5. It was the sports version here now. I wouldn't really go for the sports version because then the suspension is not that comfortable. So I would go for a normal Audi Q5. And I think the Q5 is my second place in this comparison test. Just my thoughts. And then let's go for your thoughts down in the comments. Let's discuss this one. And yeah, well, I had a lot of fun presenting you with these 6 cars here actually in the premium compact SUV segment. And of course, we'll continue our comparison test reviews because you said that you really like these ones. And I think they always give a good basis actually to discuss all of these results. Thank you very much for watching. Here, Autogefühl with Thomas, and see you next time.